Investor Connect podcast program. This is Hall T. Martin. I'm the host of the show, in which we interview angel investors, venture capital, private equity, family offices, and many other investor groups for startups and growth companies. I hope you enjoy this episode. Thank you for joining us. Well, hello, this is Hall Martin with Investor Connect. Today I'm here with Gina Luna of Luna Strategies. Gina, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So can you tell us a little bit about your background before joining the HX Venture Fund?
Sure. I actually spent my career, a little over 22 years at JP Morgan in a number of roles, always here in Houston, but oftentimes had a role that was national in scope. And I got involved in Houston Exponential, well, actually before it was formed. I was the founding chairperson of Houston Exponential, the organization, in 2017, which was really born out of our focus in Houston to build the innovation ecosystem. And one of the specific objectives we had is to bring more early stage capital to invest in Houston companies and keep them here. And so in order to do that, we formed the HX Venture Fund. And this is a volunteer role for me. I serve as an advisor to the fund.
Well, that's great. So for all those investors out there who are just now starting to invest in early stage startups, what would be your advice for those people that are just now getting into it?
I think there are a lot of opportunities to invest in early stage companies, particularly in some of the areas of the country that have been overlooked to this point. And more generally, I think my advice would be to find great management teams, great entrepreneurs, and in the very earliest stage, to really spread your investments and diversify your risk. And as you gain experience and those companies continue to mature, then you can invest more as they develop.
Great. Well, let's talk about the state of investing in Houston startups. How is the Houston startup sector evolving?
Well, I think we are making tremendous progress in terms of building the ecosystem and creating an environment that will nurture and support startups and, importantly, keep them here as they grow. As I said, one of the things that we're very focused on is making sure that there is more capital available to support those companies at their various phases. And so we're, through Houston Exponential, approaching that in a number of ways. One is working to build a culture of early stage investing in Houston. Certainly, there's no shortage of investable capital here or people that are willing to take risk. It just traditionally has been invested in private equity or in real estate or certainly oil and gas. And so part of that is a matter of education and raising people's awareness to early stage companies in digital technology or life sciences, for example. We've also, as a catalyst to bring capital from outside of Houston to companies here, created the HX Venture Fund, which is a corporate fund of funds. Our LPs are some of the most, what I would call important or impressive corporations in Houston across a broad group of industries. And we will then take that capital and invest it in top performing VCs across the country that align with the critical mass of technologies that we're trying to build here. And certainly an important factor is VCs that want to have a real meaningful engagement in Houston.
Well, that's great. So for the HX Venture Fund specifically, what exactly does it look for and what is the investment thesis behind it?
Well, we will invest in, as I said, top performing VCs with a good track record of success. But more importantly, we're looking for VCs that align with the interests of our limited partners and what they're seeking in terms of technology and innovation. And then also VCs that are focused on some of the areas of technology that we're trying to build in Houston. So those areas of focus for us are robotics, cybersecurity, industrial Internet of Things, and broadly speaking, data science. But those are all areas of technology that are very critical to the industry that is so prevalent in Houston. So healthcare, energy, the port and logistics. And so that's a lot of things to call an investment thesis, but generally that's how our investment committee is thinking about evaluating the VCs that they ultimately choose to invest in.
Would you have any specific examples, one or two companies that have been funded that fit that criteria?
Well, the first investment out of the HX Venture Fund was to Live Oak Capital out of Austin. So that's a great example of VC that just closed out their most recent fund and has shown tremendous interest in engagement in Houston. And there's probably 7 other funds that are currently being diligenced by the HX Venture Fund team.
So what are the challenges in starting a business in Houston? And it seems like there's a lot more resources now, but where are you with helping the startups get up and running and then find funding?
Well, I think in many ways the challenges in Houston are the same challenges that early stage companies face regardless of where they are. Maybe some of the unique aspects of Houston, some are great, some are opportunities to address. So one thing that's happened over the last, call it 2 years, is we've added several accelerator programs in Houston. Mass Challenge has launched in Houston. Of course, there's TMCX, which is focused on healthcare and life sciences. Plug and Play has recently announced their entry into Houston, and then there are a host of others like Station Houston. So the Cannon is another example, Capital Factory, where we're building that infrastructure to really support entrepreneurs, provide them with the resources that they need to grow. I think the real asset that Houston has is the incredible breadth and depth of industry here. So everybody knows that an early stage company most importantly needs clients and customers. And so that's certainly a competitive advantage for Houston. And I would say all of these things coming together are creating an environment that is much more helpful and friendly to companies at various stages. And the importance of bringing capital to Houston is so that when they get to that stage where they need significant capital, they're not drawn away to, one of the coasts.
Well, that's great. So how does Luna Strategies fit into this landscape?
Well, as I said, this work in Houston Exponential is really my volunteer leadership within our community, but Luna Strategies works with companies advising on a number of strategic issues. And so in some cases, I, through Luna Strategies, work with some early stage companies to help them with various aspects of their strategy and help them through certain phases of growth.
Well, that's great. Well, in the last few minutes that we have here, what else should we cover that we haven't?
Well, I love your podcast and this opportunity to talk to people about what's going on in Houston and in Texas, and think what you're doing as an advocate is great. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks so much for joining us today. How best for listeners to get back in touch with you?
They can connect with me through LinkedIn, Gina Luna on LinkedIn.
Well, great. We'll put that in the show notes so people can get back in touch with you, and hope to have you back for a follow-up soon to see how things are progressing in the Houston startup scene.
Well, I hope to have great news to report.
Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org. Paul T. Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions.